Good evening, folks, and welcome to our special interview tonight with one of our musical guests. We don't have a poker player on tonight. We have a great musical guest on tonight. We have Miss Rabbit Quinn on the air with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you for having me.
Okay, well, one of the very first questions I'm going to have to ask you right off the bat. One of the first questions was, is her name really Rabbit Quinn? No, it's not.
Not legally speaking.
Not legally speaking. That's performance name. How did you come up with that name?
So Rabbit was a nickname that I'd had for many, many years. It was kind of persistent, and so I decided to kind of let it happen, as it were. And then my actual last name is Motai, but Rabbit and Motai didn't really roll off the tongue so well. So I went through the catalog of family names, and my grandmother's maiden name was Quinn. And I thought, Rabbit Quinn, that has a nice ring to it.
Yeah, Quinn the Eskimo was what I was thinking of. That was the first thing that came into my head. That was a great song from back in the 60s. Great song. Of course, that was way before your time. The 60s.
I do have a lot of 60s music that I do.
Well, we love your stuff. I mean, it's, music nowadays, so much of it is just let's go in the studio and put vocal harmonizers onto it, and we can adjust this and we can adjust that and put it in a box and ship it out and see if we can make some money off of it. You're an independent.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about other musicians. I knew in college I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find any music that I wanted to listen to, so I just started to go make my own.
Well, that's one way to fix it. I had never heard. I've heard a lot of different reasons for making your own music. That's the best one I've heard in a while.
Thank you.
I didn't like what was out there, so I did my own. Now, how long you been playing piano?
Since I was a baby, 5, 4. I don't really remember the exact time my dad was a pianist, so he'd put me on his lap and teach me how to play, and so it's always kind of been around. And
so you're doing that now, teaching people how to play?
I do. I just got back from teaching lessons today.
We had a couple of discussions about that over the past week or so.
I know. I'm sorry. I have a full studio. It's I'm in demand, so that's a good thing.
Well, definitely in demand. Folks, I got to let you know, this is Layla's sophomore album. This is her second album. She did up a Kickstarter, and it was totally overfunded in less than 48 hours. That tells us people are waiting for your next album.
I'm excited. I can't wait to give it to them. I hope I don't disappoint.
And when are we going to have access to it?
March. March 1st is the official release date, barring any catastrophic disasters in the studio.
I understand. Now here's the question for me. I'm a huge vinyl fan. Are we going to be able to get it on vinyl?
Well, vinyl's expensive, my friend.
Yes, it is.
For now, we're just going to stick with a digital release and a CD release.
Okay.
But, if it takes off, I'm not counting it out. I'd be happy to put it out on vinyl if I can afford it.
That would be a great album cover. I mean, that would be an amazing album cover for a vinyl release. Goodness. Yes.
Are you talking about the photo that I've been putting up, or are you talking about
I think the painted fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and the photos, of course, too. I mean, that would look really good on an album cover.
Yeah, the title just kind of came to me. I don't know why. I thought of it before anything, and it was rolling around in my head, and I couldn't quite figure out what it meant. And then I just started writing the songs and coming up with the album. It made more sense.
Well, how do you write? I mean, is it one of those things where you sit down and make yourself write, or is it...
Oh no, I can't do that. It's like forcing yourself to kiss someone who you're not attracted to. It doesn't really work. You can do it. It's just not very satisfying for other parties.
I have heard so many different things when I've asked that question. We will definitely remember that one. Of course, we're recording this, so we'll have it for playback later. But that was great.
Oh no,
that was great because it's so accurate. If any of y'all have ever written poetry or music, you understand how accurate that was. Oh my goodness, that was good. Now, how long have you been writing music? I mean, you started playing early, and I can understand that from being in the family. But how long have you actually been writing your own stuff?
So that is a good question, and it's kind of like I've been writing since I can remember. That was one of those things where I have a very vivid memory of my first experience, quote unquote, writing. I don't like to call it writing so much because a lot of the times it doesn't feel like, as a writer, you're responsible for it. Harkening back to your prior question, do you force yourself to write? No, I do not. I kind of just wait for inspiration to hit, and I think a lot of artists feel that way, where it's like almost when it's right, it's so right. It's almost like you're taking dictation. So there's that. But when I was little, I was in kindergarten, and I was staring up at this mulberry tree in the playground, and I loved the way that the light was coming through the leaves, and it hit the ground in kind of this black lacy pattern, and I started hearing beautiful melody in my head, so I just started singing it naturally. That's what you do when you're a kid. And I started taking piano lessons, I think, around that time too, and I started writing immediately after I started taking, and then my teacher would help me write down my pieces. So about 6 or 7, I had really cute, full of stickers, like yellowed paper, manuscript paper with songs. Layla's piece, 6 years old.
Wow. With manuscript paper. Now, do you actually write out all the music?
It depends. So for the most part, I do not. For my purposes, it's not really productive.
Okay.
I mean, when you're playing with a band, most band members use lead sheets.
Right.
So if there's something, I can write music, and I do, especially when I'm teaching. If there's a song that my kids really want to learn, like let's say they really want to learn Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, then I will do a transcription of that for them, and I can handwrite it, or I use Finale notation software. So I simplify it to the point where they can play it. So, I have a degree in composition, so I can write music, but for the most part, it's just people just need chords and a lead sheet. That's what they need. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we ever got. I read music because I was a brass player and all
4
that.
on the floor, 1 4 5 1.
And go. What key are we playing in? Okay, I think I can do that. I thought, well, I learned all of this reading music and really haven't used it since.
It's good to have it there if you need it, but for the most part, in the more entertainment music world, you don't generally need it as much.
Right. And if you're working with good musicians, they pick it up and grab it pretty quick. Do you like
yeah, they do.
Do you like working in the studio or playing live better?
I like different things about books.
Okay.
Working in the studio is always been my favorite thing, though, because I have absolute control. Well, I don't really, but I like to delude myself that I have absolute control. It's the closest I'm ever going to get to absolute control. But I like to be able to, I'm creating something that's a piece of art that I can mold and shape. Whereas the performance environment is, God knows, what's going to happen at any given moment. It might crap out, your bass player might pass out. I mean, you really don't know what's going to happen. The crowd it's always variable. So, I do enjoy the energy of performing. I enjoy connecting with the people when I'm doing it. That's always the biggest high, but you're never going to get musical perfection in a good rock show. It's just not, if you're doing a job right, it's more about the connection and the performance than it is about the technique.
Yeah, it's getting those folks happy. Now, you're in San Francisco. Do you get to travel? I've seen, I follow you around on Facebook and stuff, so I get to see you playing around. Well, okay, folks, no, I'm not a stalker. I'm not following around in San Francisco. I'm following
around. Are you out my window right now? Should I be worried?
Do you see the guy out there with the microphone?
Excuse me, I have to put you on hold. There's a call to 911 I need to make.
Well, it'll take a while. You're in San Francisco. I got about half hour. Are you going to get a chance to tour anywhere else? Because I'm in Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas. We would love to have you down here.
Oh God, I'd love to. I just finished a Pacific Northwest tour, and we're planning another one for February. So over the summer, I'm really thinking it's looking like a cross country tour for me, a solo one. So, and that'll be my first. And I think it's time. It's definitely time, especially since it'll be right on the heels of the release. So I'll need to promote. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. And now, do you use the same band all the time, or do you kind of mix it up?
I mix it up. So I have my bands, which is Scott Amendola and Mike Sugar, and they are kind of like my musical soulmate people, and I like to write with them and I like to record with them, but I can't always afford them.
Totally understandable.
Incredible pros, and they demand that rate, and they absolutely should. And a lot of times they're not available. If I have a show I need filled, so I have various musicians that I call on for live gigs and things that I trust, just to get it done. But for creation and for art's sake, Scott and Mike are my boys.
Very cool. Now, do you prefer large venues or nice, intimate venues?
Again, it depends on the venue. I've played at some big venues that smell like piss and everybody's a pain in my ass. And then I've played at some, sound guys grabbing my ass. It's not exactly the best place to be.
No.
And then I've played at the Great American, which was an incredible experience. And then I've played at coffee shops that were intimate and beautiful and clean, and the audience was just hanging on everything every note I sang, and those were great gigs. And then I've played in the shittiest dive bars you can possibly imagine and had to scrape gum off my keyboard stand. So it just depends.
I've been in some of the dive bars. Yeah, it's just kind of, okay, we need to put chicken wire up here because too many cups have flown this way. Yeah, I'm down in Florida.
Let me get out of here. I'll play Freebird, whatever you want. Just let me go.
Now, who are your, do you have any idols, music-wise? Or I guess idols would be a way to describe it.
I have a lot of idols. So growing up, I was primarily classical and actually Motown and soul. So it was a really weird dichotomy for me being able to idolize Chopin and Brahms. Those are two of my favorite composers, and then turn around and moonwalk with Michael Jackson. Like I loved soul and Motown, Jackson 5, and all those people. And then folk idols, I love Joni Mitchell. She's one of my favorite artists ever to have lived. And then the classic rock bands of the '60s. Of course, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Who, and then when I got a little older, I really got heavily into grunge, and that's kind of how I knew I wanted to. I wanted to be a musician because I really loved Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails and Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana and Live and all of those great artists from that time period. So, in terms of piano players, of course, Billy and Elton and Nina Simone, really big Nina Simone fan, and then of course Tori Amos, Kate Bush, the Fiona Apple, these women who have come before me in terms of doing their thing with their instrument that is truly unique, and I really admire people who can play the piano in a way that nobody else can.
I'm a huge Tori Amos fan. I mean, when she came out, she had a sound that nobody else really had.
Yep.
Which was, well, she still does, kind of, when you think about it. But it's just that's the thing. I've been in music forever. Well, not forever, but since all we had was Stones and Bones and stuff. And I'm always looking for that new sound. That's something that's different. That's a little bit different. That was one of the things that caught my attention when I listened to your stuff. October Girl. I like it. It's. When I hear that, I think about, well, man, we need to get her with Panic at the Disco. That would be a great fit.
That would be amazing.
That would be a great fit. Well, he does all of his stuff by himself, except for he's on tour. Then he brings in a band. Otherwise, in the studio, he does everything.
He's a control freak. I respect that.
Yeah. Well, being a control freak in music is great as long as you keep that under control. You don't go in the studio and spend 180 hours on something that you could do it in 40. Studio time's expensive.
No. I completely agree. I think you need to have everything ready before you go in.
It's one of the things I learned was the cousin. He had been in music forever when we started recording, and we practiced before we even went into the studio because it cost money. We'd get in, knock it out, and get out. None of that partying and drinking and cutting up and all that stuff that some of the musicians do.
Yeah, there's no place for that. I mean, there is, except if you're like 22 and in a punk band, but...
Well, that's a little different. I did a production job for a punk band out of San Antonio, the engineer didn't even want to have his name put on it. It was
no.
well, I know it was a beautiful studio here in Austin that was out in a old barn. The vocals were amazing because it was all still wood inside. Amazing vocals.
Yeah.
But he
cool.
was a little bit old school kind of guy, and just no, I don't want my name on it. And I just, well, that's fine. But we got it done, and they were pretty good. We went in, got it cut, and they were out. So it was pretty good stuff. I'm getting some questions, and these are not necessarily questions that you have to answer.
No.
Well, we've got. Does she like green men? No, Herm. We're not going to. No, Herm, go away. He's Herm Munster. He was he's being a little silly. Tom Claus wants to know how old you are, and the reason why is she sounds young, but what she is saying makes it seem she is near my age.
I'm 35.
Okay. No, Tom's a lot older than you. Yeah, Tom's a lot older. And now, how long have you been?
Doesn't he know it's not polite to ask a lady about her age, especially on the air?
He's a Yankee, and unfortunately, I had passed on the questions. Yes, so I was going to give you an option so you could go 5 years one way or the other.
I should have, but I try and tell the truth. I feel it's incredibly sexist the way that the industry is stacked against women as they age, so I try not to play into it.
Isn't it though? Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and actually I don't even think it's so much as you age. It's just the being female, which doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, but that's.
Well, we live in an incredibly sexist society. Just take a look at our last election.
Oh, we don't want to go there. Oh God, we don't want to go there.
No politics today.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
Well, because all the folks in chat will go crazy, and I'll have to dump the chat room out and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, they get all kinds of crazy in there.
But the music industry is definitely a place that's difficult for a woman to not only find her voice but also to survive. I mean, when you're constantly surrounded by men and they want something, you get really adept at maneuvering. If that makes any sense.
Well, now, have you had to deal with any of the big contracts? Have you ever seen some of those contracts from like Columbia and Sony and those places? If you had a chance to.
No, I've been lucky enough not to do that. I mean, I never signed with a big label, mostly because I don't think they were interested in what I wanted to do. I mean, as we discussed before, I'm kind of a unique bird. So they were more looking for the next Britney Spears, and I would never. I mean, I've been told so many times, you should be on American Idol, you should be on The Voice, you should write simple songs. I mean, if I had a $10 bill for every piece of advice that somebody gave me about what I should be doing in the industry, I'd probably be a multimillionaire by now.
Sure.
But I just decided to do my own thing.
Well, and that's the thing. People don't realize when you go on The Voice or American Idol or one of those, you basically sign your soul away. They get to pretty much tell you everything you're going to do. I mean, my co-host on Friday night, his cousin is Allison. She won the American Idol this year.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Good for her.
We've been trying to get her on the air. Since they're related, we figured we could get her. Hell, I've got Allison Chains coming on the air in January, so we figured we could get Allison. I know. That's the grunge I liked. Allison Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. That was some great stuff. But we've been trying to get Allison on, and it's just been like banging against a wall. It's been really, really tough trying to get, because she's got all these commitments, and the management and the record company says, no, this is the way you're going to do this. And I think we tend to lose out. Some of those folks have great voices, but we don't get to really hear their soul, because they've got to get stuck in the box.
I agree, and it's a shame.
Yes, it is, because we're missing out on some good stuff. We're missing out on some good stuff.
Definitely.
Well, I'm looking forward to. You need to have your manager get a hold of me, so we can make plans for you to fly down to Austin, do a show.
That would be amazing. You have to have me on air, though, so I can help promote the heck out of it. I've never been there before. I don't want to be playing to an empty room.
There's no doubt about. I mean, Austin, we could get you in at Antone. Your music style, we could get you in at several different places. It would be Antone's.
About that, I'll have Jeff give you a call.
Yeah, the Elephant Club, the Elephant Room. I mean, there's several different places that are really good clubs downtown that we could get you into. Austin's kind of varied. And another thing you might want to look out is South by Southwest when you're ready to maybe.
Yeah, that's a big dog.
Yeah, maybe
Not sure if I'm ready to wrestle that one.
It's relatively easy to get into play. Now, dealing with it and all the people is a whole nother story. But as far as getting a gig, it's not that hard. I mean, they only need 2,000 bands.
You're putting all these ideas into my head.
There we go.
I'm plotting when I get offline with you.
Well, I have to say, I've got my own, I can't get out to California to see you, so you'll have to come down here.
I would love to. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure we can. Like I said, I really am thinking. I mean, just for myself too. I want to tour across the United States next summer, just because I've never done it, and I think it'd be an amazing experience, and it'd be great to get out to all the little towns and different kinds of people and just see the country.
Well, a lot of your fans, not all your fans live in San Francisco, so we would love to be able to see you. Yes, we would.
You are so sweet. Thank you.
We would love to be able to see you. So, thank you for coming on the air with me tonight, Layla. Definitely appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
And we're going to have to
thank you for having me.
cut loose so I can go deal with these other people here, and you can cut loose and probably go catch some dinner after work, because you had to work a little bit.
Yes, that sounds good. I'm going to cook something. I'm not sure what yet.
Well, let's open the refrigerator and look. And then you find out what you're going to cook. Well,
sounds like a plan. You have a great evening.
Yes, and you too. And thank you again for coming on and taking some time to talk with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
Have a good one. And we are going to play Chanticleer by Rabbit Quinn, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more coverage of Vinyl Night in just a few minutes, folks.